In 1998, The Truman Show met audiences with a bold, psychological narrative that blurred entertainment with real life, foreshadowing the rise of both parasocial attachments and reality TV. Moreover, Jim Carrey's affable performance as everyman Truman Burbank captured an unspoken anxiety of American life, and yet, even 27 years later, a hidden truth remains buried within the depths of his story. Truman's awakening to his home's artificial reality is often painted as an incremental process, spurred on by the accidental fall of the Sirius 9 Canis Major stage light in the film's opening. However, efforts since to determine exactly when Truman put two and two together have revealed that the TV star likely knew far more than he initially let on. From its perfectly orchestrated morning routine to the subtle hints at Truman's lingering suspicions, The Truman Show is rife with clues illustrating that its protagonist is testing the boundaries of his world with a feigned smile long before the arrival of Sirius, either consciously or subconsciously aware of the TV crew and its omniscient, near-deific surveillance pervading every corner of his life. 5. Truman's morning routine is overly performative. One of the strongest indicators of Truman's self-fabrication occurs moments before the Sirius incident when he delivers his signature, "Good morning, good evening, and good night" catchphrase. Far be it from Carrey's most overacted line read, Truman's inflated greeting serves a narrative purpose in the grand scope of his story, illustrating a self-awareness that reflects his view of reality as little more than theater. This isn't just indicative of Truman's meta-perspective on life, however, i.e. not just Shakespeare's "all the world's a stage," it's a subtle glimpse of him either consciously or subconsciously recognizing his role as a TV protagonist, a truth underscored by Carrey's glib delivery and precise eye-line, as if looking directly at the camera to say, "I know what's afoot." This performative charade is then only magnified by its repetition, highlighting Truman's position as the unwitting showman of the picturesque reality presented on Sea Haven Island, a place whose townsfolk are as real as the artificial sunlight bathing their manicured front lawns. Thus, as a prisoner of sunny Americana, Truman plays his part with a knowing smile, quietly looking for an escape route. For Truman, fixation with travel is his way of testing the show's limits. One of the primary manifestations of Truman's escapism is his obsession with travel, an interest that showrunner Christoph Ed Harris first curbed during Truman's childhood by faking the death of his father at sea. Nevertheless, Truman's restless spirit returns with adolescence, emerging largely from his attraction to Sylvia, Natasha McElhone, and being reignited thereafter with the reappearance of his father on Sea Haven Island. Thus, already holding suspicions over the authenticity of his reality, Truman both literally and metaphorically tests the waters of The Truman Show, attempting to leave the island by plane, car, and ferry, only to be met with resistance at every avenue. Though his efforts begin in earnest, they quickly become investigative probes aimed at illuminating the show's limits and roadblocks. As a result, what initially emerged as a boyish desire to travel the world manifests into a rebellious spirit that's only compounded by the show's restrictive boundaries and its on-the-nose anti-travel propaganda, arming Truman with the willpower to hurdle the invisible walls Christoph and his staff have caged him in for 30 years, all in the name of entertainment. 3. The film's mirror monologues are a microcosm of the entire show. Another motif that highlights Truman's perception of his anti-reality are the iconic mirror monologues that bookend the film, the most famous being his "That One's for Free" monologue, where he uses a soap bar to draw a spacesuit and an alien planet while directly addressing the show's crew and audience, consciously breaking the fourth wall and embracing his role as an entertainer. These monologues, in which Truman is framed alone in the solitude of his bathroom, act as a microcosm of The Truman Show and its ultimate function, that being the eradication of a man's privacy and free will in the pursuit of entertainment unsullied by artifice, a paradoxical feat, casting real emotion in the amber of a fabricated world. Moreover, these mirror scenes are also a training ground for Truman to sharpen his outward persona. However, they are not, as the show's audience may believe, glimpses of his fully private self. Even here, Truman is still hounded by the invisible paranoia that comes with decades of mass surveillance, and his monologues, therefore, act as a medium for him to transition to his public identity. 2. Truman and Meryl are both acting out the roles of husband and wife. One of the key relationships tethering Truman to Sea Haven Island is his wife Meryl, Laura Linney, a woman for whom he holds a begrudging affinity when not thinking of Sylvia. Throughout their marriage, the crew of The Truman Show have used Meryl more or less as a walking advertisement for kitchen products, itself another reflection of Truman's pristine suburban imprisonment. Moreover, Meryl is likewise a prisoner of this arranged and televised marriage, forced to feign love for her husband while showcasing whatever product The Truman Show has been paid to feature that week. Thus, what limited interactions Meryl does have with Truman come off awkward and rehearsed, with her essentially functioning as a human prop for the show's lead protagonist. Because of this, much of Truman's suspicion manifests in his relationship with Merrill as he becomes more and more aware of the veneers comprising his reality. However, like many poor souls in search of love, Truman plays along, consciously pushing his real feelings down as he tries to find comfort in the marriage that's been so uniquely contrived for him. Nevertheless, one can only play the parts of husband and wife for so long, and Truman, driven by the deepest whims of his subconscious, slowly pushes Merrill further and further away, no longer held captive by the false binds of their marriage. This divide culminates with Truman literally forging an escape tunnel out of their basement, destroying the couple's last illusory vestige of so-called domestic bliss. Truman digs his escape route at the beginning of the film. Finally, the greatest hint at Truman's self-awareness occurs in a blink-and-you-miss-it moment that's hard to catch even after several re-watches. After Merrill returns from the store early in the film, she finds Truman gardening in the front yard with a hand trowel, a perfectly mundane scene, if it weren't for him digging in the exact spot his escape tunnel leads to. This act, along with the appearance of cracks in his basement wall, illustrate that Truman's perception of the reality present in Sea Haven Island was anything but solid. Though it's impossible to ascertain exactly Truman's thoughts when constructing the tunnel, let alone to pinpoint the moment when he discovered the truth, this chain of events points to only one plausible explanation: premeditation. Keep in mind, the hand trowel scene comes before Truman even begins openly questioning his reality. Therefore, many of his on-screen actions were part of a larger scheme to break free from the Truman Show. Furthermore, though we may never be able to fully tell when Truman decided to leave, these choices make it clear that escape remained a solid fixture in his mind.